are you going right after? You can stop this anytime if you gotta go. But I wanted to talk about a video I saw, and it was I went broke in Africa, and we'll try to make that part of the thumbnail in some way. And I wanted to talk about it because we have been going to the continent of Africa, different countries for 20 years. People always ask, man, I want to move, I want to live. Where should I go? And I always tell people, nobody can tell you where you should go. You have to kind of see it. What your reasoning for going to Africa? But the video, I went broke in Africa, and I was like, it was actually a good video. Young man. I know people who know him, and he's been all around the world. All I'm saying is on the topic of I went broke, because we don't try to get no clickbait off of anybody. I'm just giving you guys game that your daddy should have taught you, but sometimes you didn't have a daddy, or sometimes your daddy was game goofy and didn't have any game, any world experience, didn't own things, rented, wasn't around. Maybe he was a weekend dad, whatever the case. But the game on going broke in Africa, it's very easy to go broke when you leave this country, because you don't think of all the other expenses that are going to come. So what I tell people is, and this is all paid consulting, I don't just give this advice, it's based on can they even afford to leave their city, is once you get your housing together, you're going to have friends, family friends, lifetime friends, probably for life. Once we get the housing together and we can rent, we can buy, we can build, but once you get that together on the continent, and this is maybe true for every place in the world that I'm thinking of, it's going to be a lot easier, and you're going to see what your expenses are not going to be. But it's very easy when you're trying to get new couches, new beds, even though stuff is cheaper. Most Americans, as we see with this government shutdown, cannot survive a month without a paycheck, which is something Dave Ramsey and so many others for decades have tried to say. Have an emergency fund. Yeah, Dave says it's $1,000, but that $1,000 will go quick if you ain't getting another check. Have an emergency fund of 6 months. He preaches and teaches that. But so many people, and even the gentleman who made the video, I went broke in Africa, it's like you don't have your funds because the drinking, the partying, your own logic, leaning on your own understanding. If you don't even believe in God, or if you don't even believe in the scriptures, right, you can get some great game out of those things and say, oh wait, man, I use this as a history book, as a reference book. But when you lean on your own understanding and think you got it all figured out, like you're doing something nobody else could do or is doing, that's where that pride, man, that pride comes before the fall. And for most entertainers, which I put content creators definitely in the entertainment space, most athletes and even doctors that we consult are going to come to you and they're going to be broke. A lot of them are broke. A lot of people are broke. They can't sustain a month or even 6 months. Man, don't let this shutdown happen. Then we won't have a TSA. You expect these people to go to work with no gas? And like you were paying them, a whole bunch of money in the first place? Nah. So I say that to say, yeah, you can go broke in Africa, and you can really go broke as a content creator while you're traveling the world, because that video, it was really good. I really appreciate his honesty of saying that, you got to keep moving as a travel content creator. And somebody who represents content creators, some who are travelers, some who are just stagnant. Yeah, people don't want to see the same old, because a lot of times people just want to see the same thing. They want to hear how cheap it is somewhere, how you can spend $100,000 and get a big old villa or house, how you can spend $300 a month and you can live, in this place where the women adore you because you have more money than they have right now, at least on the surface. And as soon as that money dries up, tira la puerta, they're gone. But no, people don't want to talk about that too much. I love the content creators who do. So I say all that to say this is real life experience. I don't have to down anybody. and I don't have to compare with anybody because I've been doing this for 2 decades now. You know, make you think of like an old Puffy song, man. You know, I've been around the world and I. Man, you in Miami Beach, we in San Tropez, we in Malta, we here, we're there. Well, you know, thank God for an answered prayer. Thank God for what was on my heart came into fruition. But I can tell you, Africa and somebody who actually has property and investments in African countries, I can tell you, you gotta have friends, you gotta have a team. Trying to do it yourself makes it too hard. I know great people who do relocation services full time. That's all they do, that we partner with and that we use when we want to do stuff. But the thing is, those people too, they gotta eat. They got bills to pay, and a lot of times people want something for nothing, and you really get what you pay for in the space. Even when you hear something is so cheap, you're getting what you pay for. I'll never forget Joe from Authentic African, and I was talking about how the bank in Sierra Leone came to our suite, our two. I had 2 room, kind of set up for the hotel because Daddy and need his own door. The door got a lock, and they came and they sat there and opened up the bank account, there. And I said, yeah, this is what Skank of America and all these other banks that we have, they need to be doing that. And Joe reminded me, he said, Kellen, you got to remember you were in a special program. That's why they did that. They don't do that for everyone. Most people have to wait in that line. And I said, well, they got a customer because of that. Now, I have my own issues with trying to do business in Sierra Leone. It is not easy. And, it has to be profitable for me to do it. But you can easily go broke, even in a place where you might have 3 times the amount, 10 times the amount of money, if you don't do it with some wisdom, with somebody who actually has people that, sometimes you put people's kids through school. Sometimes you help somebody and their child got to eat because of something you did, right? It doesn't always have to be money. Sometimes it's hooking people up with a job, a career, a business. But yeah, you can definitely go broke in Africa if you don't have the right people. And what I'm loving about these YouTubers who are willing to go travel and everything is, they're doing it and they're doing it big and they're showing a whole nother generation of how to do it. What I hate is that American way of not talking about the finances, not talking about how you doubled or tripled your money. Begging on Patreon or super chats is still begging. Maybe that's what we got to do to live this life. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. I ain't never been no beggar. We talk boss talk like Dame Dash, and you can say what you want about Dame Dash and how he's acting now, but what he built and the people he impacted, they can never take that away from him. So, do you want to be like coming up like a Dame Dash or coming up like a Dave Ramsey, and then be able to still live the way you want to live? And especially with Dave Ramsey, if you want to live debt free, which is the only way for me. They don't have anything out there that I want, that I'm just want to take a debt for. Hey man, you can get in this business and be $1 billion in debt like Robert Kiyosaki and never pay tax. Yeah, but I still gotta sleep. And if I can't sleep, I'm cool. I'm trying to align the dots. And I want to give, again, this is a great book. You can get on an Amazon. If you can't afford Amazon or for whatever reason can't get it, ask your local library. This was a guest that we had on Diversified Game. And Dr. Philippe, he gave the game in this book for those who can read. And shout out, he also gave me my autograph copy. I appreciate that. But this is what I'm using for some up and coming clients. I'm using his methodology right now, and especially for the crypto type clients, people who want Tumblr wallets. Let's figure out how we can do this, how we can make this happen. because trying to teach certain populations about blockchains and just finance and what, money won't exist or money's going to definitely change, how to do it, we got to align the dots. We got to see where the pain is. And a lot of people have pain. A lot of people, like they say, if you know how much money you have, you ain't got enough. You don't have enough. Does every dollar have its name? Are you doing what you got to do to make sure you're financially free? Whatever that means to you, because you could be in the jungle living off the nature and you financially free, you don't need no money. So every client for us is different. Every position is different. There is no cookie cutter. My whole thing is I'm only doing what I want to do, learning the things I need to learn to help people, because I want to be able to help y'all get to that next level. And it's because life is in order, life is sweet. There's not a survival mode, but you also want to help people find that sweet spot for them, because you see so many people. When you see somebody working at Goodwill or working at a fast food place, and they pull out in a $50,000 car up, something's out of the line. And I know you could say, why are you pocket watching? Leave that to JT. Maybe it was their parents' car. Maybe it was a friend's car. Maybe it wasn't. And maybe they have a loan that's 4 figures or close to it because they have awful credit, because they're young or dumb or old and just foolish. Again, most people we're seeing don't even have enough money to retire right now. They don't have enough money to retire. That's alarming. We have people who are you think they look good, but life is not sweet. Life is not sweet, and you would not trade places with them while you have 5 roommates and maybe a minimum wage job. You would not trade places with these people. So at least I'd be in a bigger home, at least I'd have a nicer car, at least this looks good. Yeah, but one thing all people will find out is the money slows down. Whether you live long enough and you're retired or you can't work or whatever job you have, or even on this content creation thing, these platforms change their algorithm, change their model. I've just done it long enough where I've seen it, and that's why we try to safeguard and get our clients right. But clients also have to want to listen. Clients also have to want to pay you what you're worth. When people say, hey, how much are you? I say, you can't afford it. I'm looking for my next 6-figure deal that will turn into 7 figures, whether it's a direct payment or we're compounding the money and the investments that we do, because we ain't waiting for nobody to feed us. But God take care of the birds, he take care of the lizards and the squirrels, and make sure there's enough for all of our needs. And for me, let's not just have things just to have things in vanity. Let's have things because people need funding. People need the wisdom, the guidance. And I think the problem is, and I tell people, most of my ideas that you see me implement, I didn't come up with half of them. And I thank my wife, I thank Rich, I thank so many people that have been on the team who say, oh, I think you could do that. I think you could do that. But I also don't live a life that is typical, where I see like anybody, and the ladies will get a kick out of this for sure. Any ladies who've heard a man ever say I'm an alpha male. That dude is so beta. Somewhere in their life and their relationship, they getting kicked around. They can't control anything. Because really, I'm convinced to be alpha is to be quiet. But if you really saw an alpha, you probably call him a jerk. You probably call him a whole bunch of names because he's disappointing kids when the answer is no, can't get that. He's disappointing spouses. No, we're not doing that. Or we're doing this because this is when we need to do it. And what you got to say, I hear you, but that's how we're doing it. I got the kids, either you come in or you're not. So, and a lot of people can't talk the way real people about their business can talk. Because for you to be about your business, it's like if we were, on an island, man, we're gonna see who is really the leader. You're gonna have people who can do certain things, but what we find out is most of y'all can't cook, y'all can't kill your own food. A lot of people struggle with cleaning, a lot of people struggle with budgeting. These are just the facts and the numbers when you ask somebody, can you take care of yourself? So I know, get your sip and keep moving, but that's a good sip right there. In my diversified game cup, if you couldn't see, for when I had the long hair. But yeah, I want everybody to win. I think everybody could win, and I think that you know when you're around a winning team, and I thank God for teams. When you're around a winning team, you're gonna win. When you're solo and you're doing 5 things and you don't have a team that's, I'm not just talking about VAs, and VAs are great. I'm talking about people you paying some real money to. That's how I know. And I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed by things. I'm not impressed by numbers. From that show me state mentality. I just went to school there, but I'm from a place where people can really show you some real wealth, some real things. But going back to going broke in Africa, it's easy. But if you have, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 a month coming in, and some of y'all have way more than that, automatically pensions, retirements, disability, whatever the case may be, dividends. Yeah, you could survive in Africa. You could thrive in Africa, but it takes teams. And I'll tell you, if you come to me saying, hey, I want to do this, be ready to not just pay for some trips. We got to take some trips. If you got a spouse or kids, you probably want them to go, unless they're adults and, they can figure that out on their own, because, not everybody feels the same way about certain places. But it's going to take some trips. I don't fly coach if I don't have to, and I don't have to when we have an understanding we're doing this for you. I need to be refreshed, So I was having a great conversation with this guy, Curtis, and some Richards around the table at Alpha Condo about when you take, the right class of flights. You say, man, that was the quickest 15 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours, whatever. That was the easiest and quickest. You don't even want to leave, your cube, your room, whatever. But it's how you living, right? How you living. But when you scrumped up in the back or in the middle, and you got to be like this, woo, get me off this plane. But I enjoy all things, man. It's all an experience, and we've been through worse and survived, so thank God. But yeah, I wanted to leave y'all with that. You don't have to be broke in Africa. You don't have to be broke in America, but you do have to want to put your budgets together, and flights, travel, time away from home. When people leave their house for work, I don't know, for anything, they don't know if they're coming back. So you gotta pay, for convenience and even inconveniences that come around the way. So if you ask me, yeah, we can relocate. You can start your businesses in many places. I'm gonna always shout out Kenya, because I think it's a place where we can go and the systems are working in our favor, right? And there's so many things you can do in Kenya. But you got 53, 54, and counting, countries you can pick from just on that continent. And maybe it's Mexico that you want to go to. But I get into that in another video if y'all want to hear about, how to be a resident in Mexico, how to, find real friendships and all that. You guys, be blessed. Can you get the likes up on this? Can you share the game? That's free to do. That's free 99. Y'all, be blessed out here.